Yeah, I might get some angry text after sharing some of this stuff. But, I mean, they knew I had a podcast before going out with me, right? Well, hello everybody, Anthony here. Welcome back to another sunny episode of the Single Parents Podcast. This is the podcast for anybody whose life may have turned out a little less than traditional. Before we jump into the goods today, a few things I'd like to ask you to do. The first thing is maybe consider subscribing to the podcast so you never miss an episode in the future. Also, if you feel so inclined to do so, maybe consider sharing the podcast with a friend, with a family member, with somebody who has recently just become a single parent, and before they go out and start dating and doing a whole bunch of stuff, maybe you can give them the show to listen to just before they start really getting into the weeds that is being single again. I don't know, something to think about. And then last but not least, only do this if you think the show is good enough for this action, and that action being rating the show 5 stars, highest rating possible on your favorite platform, because that way we tell those algorithms that the show is legit and it'll pass it along to more people. All right. Well, how's everybody doing? How are we doing this week? It's a beautiful spring day right outside my window after I finish up this episode. I'm thinking I'm going to take my dog for a walk. I'm going to enjoy some of that sweet, sweet vitamin C from the sun. It's going to be a wonderful day. But I've just been thinking about something, and this is something specifically geared towards single parents who might be new to the single parent game, I guess you could say. Maybe these are people who recently become single parents through a recent divorce. Maybe they recently, unfortunately, become single parents through a death or something like that. Because I know there's people out there who are 100% single parents by choice, as in like they adopted or something else like that. And that's cool. That's cool. I think that might be a little different compared to what I'm talking about today for our main topic. As in, I think our main topic is going to be geared more towards those who are still maybe dealing with some wounds when it comes to being a newly single parent. Again, maybe like a broken relationship is what has resulted in the current reality for the single parent. I don't know, but I'm ultimately been thinking about the fact that perhaps sometimes we as single parents, new single parents, or even just people in general who just get out of very serious, real relationships, maybe long-term real relationships, sometimes we might be a little too hasty when it comes to jumping in and putting ourselves out there when it comes to seeking a new, serious, deep, romantic relationship. And all right, well, that one didn't work out with that last person, but 2 weeks, all right, yeah, it's been 2 weeks. I'm ready to find the next person. I'm ready to get deep and real and serious with somebody else. I think that obviously this topic today is going to be not so black and white. There's going to be lots of shades of gray throughout our conversation today. But I think that it can be, I guess, sometimes not always the most wise decision for those of us who choose to immediately go from one serious relationship, especially when we have kids and there's kids in the mix. Again, this is the Single Parents Podcast, so I'm assuming the people I'm particularly talking to have kids. But we go from one serious, deep relationship to instantly in another one, like pretty quickly after the first one just ended, and not giving ourselves time to heal, to grieve, to process, to maybe go to therapy, to talk out some things with some people, to discover aspects of who we are now that we are fully single. all these different things we'll talk more about in the show. I think some of us jump so quick from A to B that we don't spend some time in the middle doing some of those healthy things we probably should be doing before we instantly connect ourselves with another person. And the reason why I've been thinking about this, so I'll share some of my practical examples of how I've seen this, and then we'll talk more about what this might look like for people and how to maybe avoid this. But so I've seen this practically pretty recently, actually, in the last couple of, I guess, dates, situationships, people I've been talking to stage. That's the kind of stage I often find myself in all the time. So very familiar with that stage, the talking stage. So I've seen this happen pretty recently in those stages. So for one example, one person I was talking to pretty recently, we met on like a dating app and we were going back and forth. Actually, I guess for like, it was for a while, cause this person just had some stuff to work through because, well, I guess I should have thought more about this when we were in the initial talking on the dating app phase, like before we actually met up and hung out and did all that stuff. Like you're going back and forth and you're like, oh, well, tell me about you. Tell me what do you like to do? Tell me your favorite color. Tell me about your hobbies. Like the whole blah, 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 boring, like initial conversation stuff. I guess I should have been more aware of the ultimate outcome through our initial conversations, but I was just, being a nice guy, just seeing where things would go, because it wasn't anything deep or crazy. We were just talking, like nothing serious. So I was like, all right, well, let's just see. But in the initial talking phase through the apps, this person was just very transparent about the fact that they were very, 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 very fresh in going through like a separation divorce with their previous partner. And they're like, hey, like I still have some stuff to figure out. I'm in the middle of like moving and all these little practical things that you got to do when you're going through like a separation or something like that. So they were like, well, look, if you're down for it, maybe we could just keep talking for a while. And then once I've done some of the transitional things I need to get taken care of, we can go out for dinner and we can do all these other things and blah, blah, blah. So I was like, cool, whatever, that's fine. Like, I don't mind talking, getting to know people. I love that, actually. So I was like, cool, whatever. So it's like a month and a half, maybe 2 months of just talking, the small talk, getting, the typical get to know you type of conversations. No harm, no foul. But thinking back to some of our conversations, it was pretty apparent now that, hindsight is 2020, but it's pretty apparent that this person obviously, and this is, this is understandable because I've been through divorce and separation and those hard feelings and those scary feelings, those confusing feelings. Like, it's a lot. So I know 1,000% where this person was, because I've been there before, 5, 6, 7 years ago, whatever it was. But it was very apparent that this person was still dealing with a lot of strong feelings, especially towards their ex, and still probably hadn't fully comprehended the reality of her situation. And she has a very, very young child, like very young. And so the realities of going through a separation while also having basically like a baby, which again, I know about that reality. Looking back, she probably needed to not have jumped on to a dating app at that time in her life. She probably needed to, again, maybe get a hold of a therapist or a friend or a family member to start talking through some stuff with. Again, that's fine. Like, no shade on doing that, but I think this person just chose to pursue the wrong things, in my opinion, at this point in their life. But that's the decision she chose to make, and we were just talking. But I ultimately came to a head when it came to the day we were gonna go out and have dinner. And she didn't have a car, and I was just gonna go pick her up, and we were gonna go have dinner, and then we were just gonna, typical first date, first hangout stuff. And so I had a pretty busy day that day. I was doing some work training stuff, and it was a Saturday, but I was still like jam packed. So I was like, all right, I'm going to do all my work stuff, like, because we're going to meet like at 4 or 5. And it was like 4. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do all my work stuff. I'm going to take care of all my necessities. That way I can shower, change, go pick her up, and we can go to dinner and XYZ. So that's what I was doing. And then it came to about 2 hours before I was supposed to go pick her up. I was finishing up the last bit of my stuff, and I was going to shower and change. And I got a message from her asking, like, hey, is it possible if we could like move the time of the date up sooner? And I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess like I could figure that out. But like literally I planned my day like pretty tight because I had a lot of stuff to do and I still hadn't showered. So I was like, maybe I could do like a half hour sooner. But, you know, I have kind of a lot going on. And I was just like, is everything okay? Like, are we still good for today? Like, do we need to reschedule? Like, well, like just kind of seeing like, well, what's up? Why did you ask this? And she was like, no, it's cool. Like, it's fine. Actually, do you think I could give you a phone call? And I was like, okay. And didn't really know what to expect. And I give her a call. And basically, as soon as I got on the phone with her, she started crying. And I was like, oh my gosh, did I say something? Did I do something? I was like thinking back to our conversations, like, we haven't even got to dinner yet. Did I already offend you? But basically she was crying because she was wondering if we could have the date sooner so she could get back to her child sooner, because this was like the first real time she was going to spend this much amount of time away from her child, being in the midst of the whole separation thing, because again her child was super, super young. And so she was just like, I'm so sorry, like I hope you understand, like I'm really struggling right now and all these different things. And I was like, no, it's fine, I totally get it, because again I've been in this situation where you go from seeing your kid every single day 7 days a week because you're married to the other parent, and then when you go through that divorce and separation, then time and custody gets split up, and then you're going from seeing your kid every single day 7 days a week to now going chunks of time without seeing your kid and being with your kid. It's weird and it takes a lot of adjustment, and I get that. And so we talked it out, and I was like, yeah, let me just finish up what I'm doing. I'll take a shower, we'll go to dinner, and then that way you can get back to your child. And so that's essentially what we did. We hung out for a few hours and kind of just we had a good time, and then went about our day after that. But even throughout our conversations at our dinner, whenever like maybe I would bring up something about her ex, or something would come up about her current situation, like you could just tell like emotionally, like it was still impacting her, for her to talk about him, for her to talk about certain things. It was just very apparent that this person I was sitting across was somebody who really just needed to spend time working on themselves and figuring out the reality of their situation, and healing and going through the long, uncomfortable, and sometimes painful journey of working through a big life event like this. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's great. I think everybody needs to do that. I had to do that, but I think there's a difference between somebody who has done the work, who's taking a good amount of time. And there's no, like, again, a lot of this is gray. This isn't black and white. So there's not like one set amount of time. Like it needs to be 6 months or a year or 2 years or 3 years. Like people have different opinions on that. But I just think it depends on the person and the severity of the past relationship and what needs to be worked out. Like it's just a lot of gray. But I think there's a difference between sitting across from somebody who has taken some time to do that work, to get some healing, to where you can ask them like, oh, so what happened with your ex? And then they can talk about it and you can engage in that, and then you move on to the next topic of conversation, and you just keep getting to know each other, versus somebody who you ask that same question to and it's still fresh, and it's still like a fresh wound that hasn't started scabbing over yet, and so those emotions start coming out, and it's just hard and difficult to have those conversations. And so I think there's just a difference. And so ultimately my conversations with that person kind of just fizzled, because I am at a point in my life to where I've had several years working through a lot of that stuff, to where I need to sit down and have a a conversation about a lot of that stuff, like I can have that conversation, and I can do it in a way that's like reflective and emotionally intelligent, because I've had a good amount of time to process a lot of things and to work on myself and discover things about myself, to where it's not me reacting to stuff that's happened to me, but me sharing aspects about how that time in my life shaped and formed me to result in the person that I am now. And I'm not saying that it's always easy to think about, or I'm just 100% over everything, or I've understood everything that happened in that time. Like, life is just life, and you're still going to think and discover aspects of life throughout the journey itself. So I'm not saying I have it all mastered, but I think you all get what I'm saying. But not even just that situation, but I was talking to somebody else prior to that, the person I just shared with you about. And this person, when it came to their ex and stuff like that, it wasn't as emotionally intense as the previous person I was mentioning, but you could tell that she just still wasn't fully, I don't want to say like over it, but you could just tell that she still had some things to work through in regards to her relationship and maybe even her feelings towards her ex, because there would just be times where it didn't even come close to the conversation we were having, come close to being about her ex or stuff that her and her ex used to do. And she would just find ways to bring him up and be like, oh yeah, he used to do this and this, and we used to do this and this together. And I think it's fun. Like, I'm not like the type of person that's so like insecure. We can't have conversations about our past relationships and be like, yeah, I was with this person and this happened and so on and so forth, especially if that person is your child's other parents, and we're gonna have to talk about that stuff. But I think there's a difference between like, oh yeah, like let's talk about your past relationships and what does that look like and how has that informed who you are and how you date today, versus, oh well, my ex did this and my ex 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 and this and this and it's just like, okay, well, you bring up your ex a lot. It seems like they might be living in your head pretty rent free, relative to what you say you're at in relationship with them and how you've moved on and all these different things. And so that kind of like put up a little bit of a wall for that person in my relationship with them, and ultimately probably played a part in why it didn't work out. Is just because I just think, well, I think you just still seems like you have some stuff and some unresolved feelings about your ex you need to work out. And I'm not saying that she wanted to go back and be with her ex in a romantic way, because I think there just was stuff about that wasn't healthy. There's a reason why she left him and wasn't with him. But at the end of the day, that doesn't mean she fully worked out all of those internal things that needed to be worked out, to where he was constantly living in her head rent-free in a lot of different ways. And that did impact some of her current relationships, because her current relationships always getting compared to her ex and always talking about her ex in situations that aren't really like that. The conversation's not even really about that. It just can make things a little tricky. So my real point in sharing those experiences that I've had ultimately results in me saying this. Single parent out there, I want you to listen to me. We're going to have a little talk. We're going to get real for a second, a little family conversation, all right? It is okay to take some time for you and for your kids to work on yourself, to care for yourself, to heal, to process, to do all the things necessary that you need to do for you before getting into another serious relationship. And I want to say this because I think there's a couple of big factors to this, right? I think number one, there's sometimes a lot of societal pressure, maybe self-pressure within ourselves to always look like we have all of our crap together, right? We got all of our stuff figured out. And so you go through from one messy relationship that didn't work. Well, I just need to get into something better. and show my ex that I am lovable, that I can thrive, that I am worthy, and all these things. So I'll just go find somebody else, and we'll start posting pictures on social media, and everybody will see how great I'm doing now and all these different things. And being single, like, that's hard, that's scary, that seems like, nobody will love me, and I'm undesirable, and all these things. So to prove to the world, and even to prove to myself, I'm just gonna go find somebody as quick as I can. The first day that I am technically free, I'm gonna go create a Tinder account, or I'm getting on Hinge, or I'm going to the bars and doing all these things. And it's just, I think that sometimes can be counterproductive to what we say we want in those times. Now, to preface this, and maybe I should have said this earlier, like, I think there's a difference between being single and having fun and going out and meeting new people and maybe going on dates and doing all these different things and not really expecting anything serious. Like, you're getting out there, you're exploring. Part of knowing yourself and discovering things about yourself is doing that in social settings with other people. So I don't think you necessarily need to become a cat lady who just stays inside and knits and secludes yourself from everybody until you think you're better. I'm not saying that, but I think there's a difference between that and, like, hey, I'm just going out, I'm just having fun, I'm just doing me for a while, versus I need to find my next person. I need to jump into with something really quick and move in with somebody and get married and do all these things 2 weeks after I just got a divorce or got separated. I think we sometimes jump into option B and do all of those extreme things so quickly because we think maybe we have all these external pressures telling us we need to do that in order to be a boss, to be healed, to be okay going forward as a single parent. We need to make sure our ex knows that we're winning, and maybe our ex is off and doing stuff like that, and they're jumping into quick relationships, and so to keep up with them and can feel like we're competing with them all the time. So they're in a relationship. Well, I need to go find a relationship and all these different things. It's just unproductive, I think, doing that if you haven't truly put in the time and put in the work to heal and to truly understand what's going on. How are you dealing with this? What are your thoughts? What are your emotions? Have you even taken the time to cry? Because a lot of this stuff is super heavy. Again, with the person I was talking to earlier, like, she cried about the fact that she was now spending some time, even though it was only a few hours, away from her child. I think that type of processing probably needs to happen within her own self, throughout her own self-care journey of being a newly single mom, and probably not on the phone with somebody you barely even know who you're going on a date with. Like, I think she probably needed to process that on her own, and I totally understand and I totally support her in the fact that she had that emotional reaction to what she's going through. But I think sometimes we trick ourselves into thinking that we're a lot more healed and we're a lot more okay than we actually might be, especially when all of that stuff is so fresh and so new. So we gotta dismiss a lot of the internal and external pressures to rush, just to go and to not give yourself proper time and all these different things. And our friends telling us, well, I'm going to hook you up with this person and just start talking to this person. I just to say, no. I'm not doing that right now. I need some time to heal. I need some time to think. I need to take some time to go take a drive in the mountains and just scream for a little bit because life is crazy. And then maybe 6 months, a year, however long you need, then I can start exploring meeting other people and doing all these different things. And it'll be a lot healthier and a lot more productive because then we're showing up to these new relationships, having learned about ourselves, being able to have these conversations, being able to have work through some unresolved feelings, maybe even about our ex, to where we're giving this new relationship an actual fair shot to succeed and thrive. If this is somebody we could see ourselves actually being with, without some of those unresolved things creating roadblocks and creating a wall. And also, I want you to hear, if this is you, this is really resonating with you, that oftentimes the reason why we jump from serious relationship A to serious relationship B is because taking some time just to be with us and to do us is scary, right? Like, it could be scary to think about the fact that, oh my gosh, I was just married, spent all this time living with another person, and now I'm alone in my apartment by myself. I have my kids and I'm doing it solo, but the fact that I'm the only adult in my house now. Yes, I have friends. Yes, I have family I can call. But at the end of the day, when I put my kid to sleep and I go sit on my couch, it's probably just me. And when it's just me, that's when the hard thoughts come in. That's when the anxiety comes in. That's when the insecurities creep in. The loneliness hits hard, and all the things that, it is tough to think about, but necessary to think about in order to work through hardship and heal, instead of actually sitting in that and wrestling with that and giving yourself time for that open wound to scab over. We just say, no, it's too hard. I need to have somebody. I need to be doing something. I need to have somebody over with me all the time, because then it essentially creates like a distraction almost from the stuff that we need to actually work through in order to have healthy relationships going forward in the future. And so I just want you to hear, if this is you and this does resonate with you, that it's okay to spend some time healing in that scary zone of it just being you, with your thoughts, with your feelings, with your emotions. And if that means in those times you do have to cry, you do have to scream, you do have to just lie on the floor and stare at the ceiling because you don't know what in the world's going on, that's fine. That's okay. Like I keep using the open wound that needs to scab over analogy. Like it'll eventually heal, and the scar from the wound will still probably be there, but it will heal over, and it will begin to recover, and it will get a little bit easier day by day, step by step, to eventually you'll find that when you are alone, when you are by yourself, it's not scary, it's not so intense, it's not so emotional, but it can be a positive time, because you've taken the time to get to know yourself and to find things about yourself that you truly enjoy, that you want to work on and grow on, and that you're excited for. And so when you do have that you time, it could be a real joy, because you get to spend extra time just being you and celebrating you and remembering your worth, and having fun and doing all the things that you need to do in order to continue moving forward. So I just want you to know it's okay not to be ready. It's okay not to be ready for a serious relationship. It's okay not to be ready to get on the dating apps. It's okay not to be ready to start talking to somebody so quickly. It's okay. And I know the world and social media and maybe even thoughts and emotions within yourself tell you need to be ready now. You need to put yourself out there. You need to do all these things. And I'm here to tell you, no. You can get there. But in the meantime, it's okay to just be with yourself. It's okay to heal. It's okay to cry. It's okay to process. It's okay to take a breath. It's okay to work through some feelings. There's no law out there that says you need to go from one marriage to another one within a matter of a couple of months. No. It's okay for you just to be you and work on you for the betterment of yourself, for the betterment of your kids, and for the betterment of your relationships going forward. It's now time for the part of the episode we like to call Deeply Single. If you made it this far on the show, this is the deep end of the episode where we just take some time to get a little real, to get a little personal, to get a little intimate with each other before we leave today. And I just want to keep piggybacking off of some of the conversations we've had today. I think a big reason why it's so crucial to give yourself time to heal and process when you're going from one serious relationship to another. comes through the idea of the thermostat analogy, right? So thermostat analogy, if you haven't heard about this before, essentially think about what it usually felt like walking into your house as a child. Let's just say an average spring day, you walk into your home, like what did it feel like walking into that room temperature wise, right? So for some of us, walking into your house, it felt warm because your parents, your family like to keep the house a little bit warm, a mid 70 degree house, depending on the time of the year. It was just or maybe you walk into your house and it was pretty cool because your parents just got hot easy and they just like to keep it cool, so they kept it low 60s or what have you. But did you ever notice that eventually you become accustomed to whatever the thermostat was set in your house, because that's just what you were conditioned to live in? You were conditioned to live in a 73 degree house every day because that's just what you just walked into on the regular, or you were conditioned to live in a 65 degree house because that's what you walked into on the regular. But you didn't really think about it too much until maybe you went to a friend's house and maybe you were raised in a 65 degree on the regular house. You walk into your friend's house and they like to keep it warm and their house is set at 74, and you're walking in like, man, why is your house so hot, man? Like, what's going on? And your friend might look at you and be like, what are you talking about? Like, it feels fine in here. Or vice versa, they come to your house and they're like, I gotta go get my sweater. And you're like, why? Because your house is freezing. Like, what? No, it feels good in here. You're conditioned for the thermostat that you were raised in, is kind of the gist of it. Now, think about this not just when it comes to the temperature of your home, but to how you were conditioned to perceive a lot of different aspects of life, particularly in this sense, how you were conditioned over time to perceive love and your value. You see, oftentimes when it comes to how we are used to being treated in a relationship or how we're used to being loved, we'll see and read things online or see in movies or hear from our friends like, hey, like, you're worthy of this, you deserve to be at a 75 degree perfect temperature relationship, right? And you think that and like, okay, that's cool. But then you find yourself always putting yourselves in 65 degree cool relationships. You're like, man, I know I deserve to have this type of person in my life as a partner, but I keep ending up with this other not so great type of person as a partner. And like, man, it's just the guys in my town or the people who are attracted to me, and they're always toxic and always crazy. And that could be part of it, but a part of it could be is that you have conditioned yourself over time to be accustomed to those toxic, unhealthy, unfruitful, unsupportive, unloving type of relationships, whether you know it or not. And so for you to go and be with a healthy person, get into a healthy relationship, be with somebody who actually respects and values and cherishes you. That sounds great on paper, but your thermostat's not set for that. Your thermostat is still set for toxic. And so you become accustomed to toxic. So when you do get around somebody who is the opposite of that, it's like walking into your friend's house and be like, oh, whoa, what? If something feels different, this is not the same. It's not what I'm used to. And then if you don't recognize that and engage in that and start adjusting your own personal internal thermostat for healthy relationships, then often what we'll end up doing is stuff like self-sabotaging those healthy, good relationships and always going back to the unhealthy, toxic relationships, because even though on paper, not great, even though we complain to our friends and family, not great, at the end of the day, that's still what we're conditioned to receive. That's still what we're used to. It's still, in a weird way, what we're comfortable with. So think about this when it comes to everything we talked about today, when it comes to giving yourself time to not be ready to date yet. Think about you being conditioned, your thermostat set for unhealthy, unloving, unsupportive relationships. And that's where it is. and you instantly, immediately start jumping into another relationship with somebody else. And you're like, this time it's going to be different. This time I'm going to find somebody who's actually a great person and all these different things. Now, do you really think that after 2 weeks or however short amount of time, you're going to be able to truly start adjusting your thermostat and give yourself time to really become conditioned and accustomed with being with somebody who's healthy and supportive in that short amount of time? Again, maybe, like I said, a lot of the stuff we're talking about is not always black and white, but oftentimes like a room in the house. So you have a 65-degree room in the house and you need to warm it up. We're going to make some changes in the temperature in here. So you crank up the thermostat to 74. How does that happen though, right? How does the house immediately go from 65 to 74 in like 1 second? Or does the house slowly start getting warmer degree by degree by degree until eventually it's set at 74 degrees in your house? How does that happen? It takes some time, right? It slowly, step by step, gets warmer and warmer and warmer until officially the temperature in the house has changed. If you want to actually make some real change in your dating, if you actually want to make some real change in how you engage with relationships, if you actually want to make some real change in how you're treated in relationships and what you actually think you're worthy of and actually what you think you deserve, then I don't think there's anything wrong with adjusting your thermostat accordingly, recognizing that, hey, my thermostat has been set at toxic, unhealthy, not so great. I need to adjust that a little bit, but understand that me getting to a place where I'm actually comfortable with that new temperature setting, it might take a little time. It's going to slowly come. It's slowly gonna start seeing some change. It's slowly going to start heating up a little bit. And eventually I'll get there. But in the meantime, I'm going to be okay with the process, with the journey, with the work that it's going to take. Again, maybe even therapy for me to become comfortable and okay with having my thermostat changed. Because it might even not just be the stuff that you learned in romantic relationships. Like it could be stuff that goes all the way back to your childhood and what you learned growing up as a kid as to what you believe that you deserve when it comes to a romantic partner. Maybe you saw your parents interact with a certain way and you're like, okay, well, I learned how to love and what love is from my parents. And if it wasn't always the healthiest, if it was not always the most supportive, then that's your thermostat. That's what you've been accustomed to internally, subconsciously, whether you know it or not. And so maybe you got to start back and do some work to start making some adjustments. Or maybe there's just certain patterns that need to be broken. Whatever. I would just say, do the work of figuring out what is my thermostat set at. And you can do this with finances. You can do this with work ethic. It doesn't just have to be romantic stuff. Like if you give somebody whose thermostat is set for a $20,000 a year lifestyle, and that's what they're accustomed to is being broke and always, being horrible with their money, then you can give that person $1 million and think that, okay, well, now this person has $1 million. They're going to thrive. They're going to do all these things. But if their mindset hasn't changed, if their thermostat hasn't changed, and they haven't actually shifted their thermostat from being a $20,000 a year broke, bad with money mentality to now being a millionaire, great with money, investing, doing all the proper things to secure wealth and stuff like that going forward, then I just watch how fast that $20,000 a year thermostat person wastes and blows that $1 million, because subconsciously their thermostat is not set for $1 million lifestyle. So subconsciously they're going to do things to go from being a millionaire all the way back to being a $20,000 a year lifestyle type of person, because they just didn't do the work. So the practical external stuff could change, but the internal thermostat hasn't properly been adjusted, then the cycle is just going to continue You're just going to keep going back to the same place with the same people, doing the same things over and over again. So it's okay to not be ready. It's okay to take some time. It's okay to let your house warm up, the thermostat be adjusted for a little bit. And then when it has, then you'll be able to really see some change. I bet you'll really be able to step into a new relationship in a healthy way, because you know that my thermostat is changed, my definition of my self-worth and my definition of love has changed, so we can do this thing differently. My thermostat has changed, so if you give me $1 million, I'm not going back to a $20,000 a year mindset. My thermostat has changed to where now I'm worthy of $1 million, and I'm going to live my life accordingly. Single parents out there, I hope that you just remember that. I hope that you can share this with people who might need to hear it. Maybe they are fresh out of a divorce or a broken relationship. They are brand new single parents and they need to hear that it is okay not to be ready for XYZ. Share this with them. If you want to share your story with me, if any of this resonated with you, I'd love to hear what you have to say. Socials, the email, the singleparentspodcast@gmail.com. That's the singleparentspodcast@gmail.com. Would love to hear from you all. But yeah, just felt like sharing that today. So I hope that was helpful. All right, everybody. Well, that's going to get ready to do it for this episode of the Single Parents Podcast. My name's Anthony. And until next time, you all out there, just stay beautiful. Bye.